the upgrades on the screens is about to commence.
G'day everyone, hope you're well. Thanks for joining. Yes, we're going into another upgrade. This time we're going to do our screens. I've finally done it. I've got the three new, well, effectively 4K TVs, and so we're going to change them all out. I'm going to do the side ones first because I suspect that I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjustment between the side and the front to get that to perfectly line up in the verticals. So that may need a bit of mucking around at the front there, but I'll get to that one a bit later and I'll show you that. So let's get into it. I'm going to get the side ones changed out first, and then we'll move into the front. And yeah, let's go.
I don't know if you can see that or not, but these are just on stands. The two sides are on stands, freestanding units. As you can see, my Sim's pretty ugly from the outside, but as I said, I was never intending on making it look aesthetic from the outside. So I need to just get these off on both sides. It's exactly the same on the other side, as I can show you here. That's the operator station, by the way. Yeah, exactly the same. Two of these identical. Let's whip these two off, and then we're going to work around the way around the front. Now, the front's going to be more interesting because that's got that little brace unit there, as you can see. Now, I think, firstly, the brace will be in a different position for the new TV, and more importantly, when we get down here, and I'll show you this later, I've got this, effectively this is just to raise it up and down a little bit. Now, obviously, that was in the fixed position relative for these ones, but I'm going to have to muck around with that, so that's why I want to get these side ones on first, and just see what height that comes out at, to hopefully not have to do too much on this, and effectively I'll take up the height through here by 3D printing some more, but I'll get to that a bit later. Let's get the side ones done. Okay, I've got the first side TV off here. Interesting observation straight away. Yes, they are identical. They're 55-inch TV, so I guess on a general screen size they are the same, but here's the first point. Obviously, I wanted to try and get them mounted relatively much the same, but what I've noticed, before I even start, is the VESA mount position here relative to the top of the screen. If you have a look at that, that looks certainly a lot, smaller than what that is on the new one. Now, the new one, sorry if you can't see that there, but if I put the screwdriver to it, it's there, and that is distinctly a larger dimension than what that is. So what does that mean? Well, that means that obviously what I thought I was going to be doing, which is a nice easy transfer of the top bolt there, won't be the case. I'm going to be coming further down this. So what I want to do now is measure with the tape measure just from there to there, and then take that over to that and get the same thing to set the position, so that I can at least get a relatively good position relative to the when I put it back onto the stand. So let's get that in position now. Okay, I got the first one on and measured it from pretty much the hang point there on the clip, on the bracket, all the way up to the top of the TV, and that's circa 270, which will be the same as what was on the existing one. So trying to keep everything relatively much the same. What I love about this is the fact that because I had to actually, this was a little bit different, but it still gave me a little bit of clearance underneath the bottom there, so I didn't actually have to take this out of the polystyrene at the base there, which kept my TV nice and vertical for the mounting of those brackets there. So yeah, little tip there, if you can keep it inside the polystyrene when you're mounting them up. All right, let's get the other bracket on and get the TVs on. Never a dull moment, is there? So anyway, just put the TV on now, which I thought was going to be at the right height relative to that. But you can see the front one, which is the existing one at the moment, where it's mounted, that's a reasonable drop. I estimate that's probably a good 20 millimeters there, which means that I've got to bring this one up 20 millimeters, which, to be honest with you, is a little bit too much to play with. I can probably lose one notch down on the adjustment on this side one. So I'm going to go down another notch and still give me a bit of room here to play with this one, I think. So otherwise it's just too much for this to take up. I don't want to bring this front one up that much. So I'm going to drop this one down a notch, and then that'll close that gap up a bit better. Righto, I've got the side monitors on both sides, just temporarily just position them. Now on the co-pilot side, now I'm on the other side here. The differential in height between this is different to the differential height over there. Now that's not the frame, that's actually these stands. There's just a slight misalignment. I don't quite know why, but it's not much. It's like 8 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is, when I actually initially put these in, I actually had to pre-drill, and I suspect I know where the error is, because I had to do an extra pair of holes on the original installation through the adjustments. And I think they may be slightly out of whack on between the two, and I think that's where the variance might be coming from, notwithstanding any other tolerances. So let me just take you around the other side, because this one I'm going to leave where it is, because what I want to do is actually make up my next piece of capping, which effectively is this stuff that's just going to go in here, which is what I had before. I'm going to modify that to be a bit of extra height in there to allow for the front monitor so that they can line up. So that's what I'm going to 3D print. I'm going to make a modified one of these, and then they'll be exactly the same height on the other side. Now, to take up the height over there, I need to pick up about 10 millimeters. So, fortunately, that means I've got to get 10 millimeters in height. I've got to bring this up 10 millimeters. So, what I can do, is what I've worked out, is I can actually bring this down to that set of holes there, which actually are original holes. That's about a 20 millimeter drop, which means that I've got to go 30 millimeters that way to give me a 10 millimeter net difference in height. Now, if I go 20 millimeters down and then up on these adjusters here, fortunately, these are 15 millimeter increments. So times 2, that's 30. So 30 in that direction, 20 down there, that'll give me my 10 millimeter increase in height, and then that should be just about spot on. So let's see how that works out. Okay, I've made the adjustment on the pilot side one now, one I said I had to bring up 10 millimeters. The differential now, with obviously I've still got to print that new bit of capping there to modify that piece, which I'm doing at the moment. But the difference in height from the stands is about 2 millimeters between that one and obviously this one over here, and so that's close enough. I reckon 2 millimeters over that distance of just over a meter is workable, so that's good. Now what I've got to do is make up a new 3D part for this, just this capping here, just to bring that capping up. So why I'm going to do that is just locally thicken through the top. But also importantly, I do need to make a bit of a modification, and I'll perhaps show you that maybe in Fusion. But if I just go to, if you can imagine this one, sorry for the camera work, if you can imagine this one now being the front one, unfortunately underneath here on this side, just on the one side, but you've got the on-offs, which I think is the on-off stuff for the TV, and you can see it's slightly lower than the general flat part there. So from a capping point of view, we've got to be careful that we don't foul on the cap. And if I can just, I really do apologise for my camera work, but if I can show you what I mean, I think the capping is going to do something like that once it lands. I think it'll look something like that. So you can see part of it is going to foul on there. So what I need to do is obviously thicken up just the outer, like an outer piece, but leave the rest down. So only really just locally thickening up one side of it, just so I can bring it up, that's all. So you can imagine it'll sort of sit like that, and then you'll thicken up just the one side of that to be able to provide the support. So that's what I'm looking for. I've just got to now just recheck that dimension there to see how much I can thicken it up, and I'll just quickly check that, and then we'll make the 3D bits up. Okay. Okay, I've got the forward or the front monitor now in position. Certainly now to make some finite adjustments to it. So obviously, as I mentioned before, I needed to account to get the heights correct at the side. So fundamentally what I did is, excuse the camera work once again, but I 3D printed these little supports down here, which is literally just a cap that sits over that with a raised section on one side. I just needed to pick it up just to allow for the side monitors there. Now, given that I've got this entire sim sitting on carpet, you get a little bit of unevenness, notwithstanding the tolerances in each of the side stands. So this one ended up being 17 millimeters up, and on the other side here, it's 22 millimeters, so 5 millimeter difference. But when you take 5 millimeters over the entire width of the 55 inch, it's 0.23 of a degree, so you're hardly even going to see it, but it'll be enough to make sure that it's perfect on the other side. So now what I need to do is make some modifications to the strut pieces here that obviously keep it in place for the vertical. So I'm just going to now just get the spirit level up, get that up right there, and then trim these back and reconnect them. I'll get that done. And then once that's done, it's then just to now bring the sides in, line them up, get them to the 90 degree. And then, as I said, I'll use my beautiful Gorilla Tape that we've had before. I hate doing it on a brand new TV, but it is the best way to hide all of that. And then just get those bezels to line up nicely, get it to 90 degrees, yeah, job done. And then we'll move into some inside and show you what it looks like. Okay, just offering up the side monitors. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's just a little bit of the bottom part of the frame, if you like, on the TV, and that's fouling with that a little bit, which is a bit of a problem. So it's not going to be perfect, but yeah, it's a bit of a shame actually. I can't get rid of that unless I pull that off, and I'm not going to do that. So I'll get it as close as I can, but the bezels, not too bad. And once I get the tape through it, it'll be pretty close. So yeah, unfortunately, just got to be careful of your framing down on your TVs. Anyway, let's see how we go. So there's the units all now sealed up, the Gorilla Tape over it as well, and again I got them really close together and just pulled them in slightly with the tape, which is very strong tape, and then did a vertical seal of the tape all the way down the length of the TVs, just to then, and that's a complete block-out tape as well, so works really well. And is very strong. Again, I don't like pulling it off, to be honest with you. In fact, I use it a fair bit. You've probably noticed I use it to sort of do some cable management and that as well around the back of the sim. Obviously, once I get my cover over, you don't see any of that. But yeah, it's very strong, very versatile. Actually, I quite like it. But yeah, use it there, and that's it there. Don't know what you call it wherever you are, but we call it Gorilla Tape. It's like a fabric type tape, but very strong and useful. That one's about 50 millimeters, I think, in width. Okay, let's go and have a look at these now. All done. We're all hooked up. I'm just assembling it all back. As you can see, I put my ceiling back on, which is my MDF ceiling, and I put my little blankets, not blankets, but I guess my covers back on, my black covering to show them all now in place. Everything's all set, everything's all back, and as you can see, sim kind of somewhat back to normal. As I said, it's not the most aesthetic looking thing from the outside, but you don't fly a plane from the outside, you do it from the inside. So I always wanted to make sure that she looked better from the inside, which I'm sure you agree it does. Okay, let's go and have a look at this thing, and then we're going to get into some fun software stuff at another episode.
Well, there we have it, guys. 3 new screens. 4K, 4K, 4K. Brilliant. You're probably thinking to yourself, doesn't look any different. And you'd be right at this point in time. There isn't. We've got obviously some software to muck around with. and no doubt further upgrades to happen. I'm certainly thinking GPU, CPU, and so watch this space. We'll continue to chip away at that, but I am certainly keen on just seeing how this thing starts to visually look. I know the frame rate's going to drop down to probably below playable, but I want to start testing some of those resolutions up higher. And I'll show you that in subsequent videos. So we're going to stick with this theme for a while of playing around with these screens. So I'm going to start looking at some benchmarking and other bits and pieces, both in X-Plane and FS 2020 on this setup. And we'll have a bit of a suite of stuff on that. So yeah, look, all in all, I guess in summary, look, a good general experience. Really happy that I've got them. I have played around with it a little bit offline, and I'll do that, sort of show you some different stuff in subsequent videos. But at the moment, I'm really enjoying what they look like. There's certainly, you won't see it from what you are, because obviously I'm recording this in 1080p, but what I see is distinctly better. Even just looking at these static screens like this, you know, now that I've got them static at 4K, it's just beautiful. So really looking forward to what this is going to bring. What have I learnt out of this experience though? Look, it's not a deal breaker. You can see I've got the bezels there, and you know, they're probably still about the same in terms of general thickness, if you like, between the two. I could start playing around again with those Heidi bits, but I'm not going to bother. Honestly, they're not really worth it. So keep them as they are. I think I may have mentioned this before, but you know, just the actual profile of the TV down low, we'd had that little bit that stuck out. That caused a little bit of a foul between the two, so that was a little bit of a pain. Now you can probably get away with that by, I guess, filing it down or whatever, but you know, I actually managed to get them pretty close together, probably within a couple of millimeters, and then sealed it from the back with the tape that you saw. So that's probably the only thing, I guess, if you are looking to do your triple screen setup. Just make sure you do check the profile on the side and at the base, so that when you are offering, you almost want this thing to be completely flat, you know, so there is nothing there, so that you can just have that butt up beautifully with nothing in the way. You know, some of these other ones on the sides, they've got different profiles and so on, and it can impact it a bit. The other thing as well is also depending on how expensive you go for your if you are using TVs, is the quality of the build. Now these are Samsung Q70Cs. I'll leave that up to you guys to have a look at that at your leisure. They were, I think there was a Q60, Q70, Q80, I think from memory. So they're sort of mid-range QLEDs. And I got them at a bargain. That's why I bought them, because there was this Samsung sale on and I wanted to grab them. So that's what I did. And I'm happy with them. And I generally like the Samsung product range anyway. I forgot what I was going with that now. Oh, that was it. Yeah, quality of build. So they've still got, there was a bit of flex in the actual panel itself. So, you know, you can flex them a bit. I'm probably, if I'm showing you a little bit. So there's a little bit of flex, and I'm not sure as you get higher up whether that gets stiffer or not, and it makes it more difficult to take up. The flex actually helped, because it actually took up a little bit of the, I guess, the tolerance difference. So for me, that was good. So just be mindful of that as well. But look, all in all, really good. As I said, next series we're going to look at some software stuff. Let's do some benchmarking, do some setups, and get into it from there. I reckon as well, and I'm just going to put it out there before I close, that because I've actually, well, I know I have, I've actually picked these up. You remember, I think I've picked it up about 15, 20 millimeters. So I suspect that all of my views, both in X-Plane and FS 2020, are not going to be lined up, and that's all going to have to get redone. So that'll be fun. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Anyway, I've waffled on enough. If you have any questions in relation to what I've done here, or anything that I may have missed in what I've just produced for you, please leave a comment below. I'll answer it, no problem at all. Yeah, look forward to catching up with you guys next time. Bye for now.